Kimberly, I just saw your text from this afternoon. Are you insane? Are you actually going to get married?
I'm sorry, is there some kind of problem with that? It's not like this should be breaking news to you. I told you a while ago that I was seeing a guy and we were pretty seriously thinking about marriage.
Don't dodge the issue. You're free to marry whoever you want. I don't care. The problem is the timing. I will not allow you to get married before your brother.
Clark, but he doesn't even have a girlfriend right now.
Then you'll have to put off your wedding for a year or two, however long it takes for Clark to get married. Once he's married, then you'll have my permission to get married yourself.
However long it takes? Are you serious? Besides, every single time Clark has ever started dating a girl, you immediately come between them and force them to break up.
Your brother has responsibilities as the heir to our family business. He's going to be the president of the company someday. I can't allow him to marry some rubbish woman from off the street. I won't allow him to marry any woman but one who is genuinely worthy of him. It's my duty as his mother to help him choose a suitable wife.
Okay, so when you say however long it takes, what are we talking about? 5 years? 10 years? What?
Who knows? However long it takes means however long it takes. All I do know is that you're not allowed to get married until Clark does.
I know this probably doesn't matter at all to you, but I've talked to Clark, and he's completely fine with it.
Oh my goodness. That Clark is such an angel. I'm sure it must have been so hard for him to say those words to you. He's so kind to be able to consider the feelings of even a pathetic failure like you. But it must have been killing him inside to hear that you were going to get married before him. Your brother's kindness aside, I'm the one who has the final say here, and I say no. That's final.
Hey, Kimberly. I just got off the phone with Mom. Guess you finally told her that you're getting married, huh?
Hey, Clark. Yeah, and just as expected, she was completely against it.
She's so determined that you can't get married before me. Even though the reason it's taken me so long to get married myself is because she keeps getting in the way whenever I find a woman I like.
Yeah, apparently she won't let you marry any woman who is undeserving of being the wife of a company president. Any idea what that means?
In short, it means that she won't let me marry any woman who won't do everything she says, how she says it, when she says.
Good grief, when did our mom become such a stereotypical overbearing mother-in-law? She's the kind of character you see in cheesy soap operas.
Right? My thoughts exactly.
Anyway, we're going ahead with moving the plans for the wedding along with the schedule, regardless of whether Mom approves or not.
Good for you. That's exactly what you should do. Besides, it doesn't matter anyway, since I'm already gonna get married before you.
Yeah. Wow, it's actually really impressive that you've managed to hide your girlfriend from Mom for so long.
I didn't have any choice. I know for certain that she's the only girl in the world for me. She's my soulmate, my life partner. I don't have a life without her in it. I'll do whatever it takes to marry her, no matter what it costs.
Well, I'm glad you found someone like that.
And the same to you.
Thanks.
Oh, by the way, it looks like Dad is finally making his move too.
Yeah, I heard. He's called me the other day to tell me about it. I'll bet there are gonna be a few bumps in the road ahead for us, but I'm 100% sure that there's happiness waiting for us on the other side.
Me too.
Kimberly, you've got some serious explaining to do. What's this I hear about you preparing for your wedding? I made myself very clear that you are not, under any circumstances, allowed to get married before your brother does. What is wrong with you? I am your mother, and you will do as I say. that you would show such disrespect to your own elder brother is disgusting. It's disrespectful to your father and I. It's disrespectful to the entire family.
Not to worry, Mom. Everything's going according to plan. Clark will be married by the time my wedding rolls around.
What do you mean?
Oh, and just so you're not under any false impressions, this isn't happening because I decided I would obey your command about not getting married until Clark does. This is just how it happened to turn out naturally.
You're talking nonsense. How can Clark get married? He doesn't even have a girlfriend.
I've got a great idea. Why don't you go ahead and ask Clark directly about this instead of hearing it from third person from me?
Ask him about what?
He's been saying that he'd let you know once everything was in order, so I think he'll probably be fine with talking to you about it if you ask him. I gotta go now. We have a meeting with the wedding planner in a bit.
Hold it right there, Kimberly.
Talk to you later, Mom.
Hey, Mom. I understand that it's finally time for you and I to have a little talk.
Clark, please, tell me what on earth is going on. Your foul little sister is telling all sorts of bizarre tall tales. Like that you're getting married. That's ridiculous, isn't it? You don't even have a girlfriend. How could you get married? She couldn't be content with just being a failure of a daughter. She had to become a vile little liar too.
That's one of the things we need to talk about, Mom. I need an answer from you right now. Why'd you call Kimberly a failure? Why'd you treat her like a second-class child? She's pretty successful in her career. She's responsible, a good member of the community. I have no idea why you treat her the way you do, and I want you to tell me.
Why? Isn't it obvious? She never even went to college, and she didn't even go to a decent private high school, just some crummy local public high school.
Are you joking? Mom, you're the one who told her that you wouldn't pay for her to go to a private school. You forced her to go to that public school.
You, on the other hand, truly make me proud to be your mother. You went to the finest prep school in the county, and then to the finest private university in the state. And after graduating, you started working for one of the largest companies in the country. And what's more, you've started your own company that you're now the president of. Honestly, the two of you are so drastically different. It's hard for me to believe that you're even siblings. How could I not call her a failure? That's what she is.
Okay, well, I've had just about all I can take of that conversation, so if it's all right with you, I'll just move along to the next order of business. Mom, I got married.
You what? Oh, Clark, you're something special. Don't worry, you don't have to play along with Kimberly's delusions. We both know she's a compulsive liar. Don't worry at all about what that little failure thinks. You go ahead and take your time to pick the most perfect woman in the entire world as your wife. I'll be here to support you every step of the way.
Will you please listen? I really did get married to the secretary in my office. So no, Kimberly isn't lying about this.
You what? Your secretary? You mean the one with the glasses? The person who came to pick you up to drive you to the airport for your business trip. That secretary.
Yep, that's her.
That was the woman?
I guess I don't blame you for not realizing that. You've only seen her in her work attire. She always wears slacks and a jacket when she's at the office, and hey, she's pretty tall. So there are actually a lot of people like you who think she's a man at first. She may not seem the type, but she actually used to be a professional model in her teens. She's gorgeous. She dresses plainly like that on purpose to keep men from hitting on her and distracting her from work.
I don't believe this. How could you go over my head and pick a woman by yourself, Clark? I do not approve of this. Not one bit. How am I supposed to live together in the same house as a woman who dresses like a man? She'll completely ruin the mood of this house.
What are you talking about? We're not going to live together with you.
What?
I've told you before that I'm moving out of the house as soon as I get married. This shouldn't be news to you, and furthermore, you also knew that as soon as me and Kimberly got married, that you were going to move to the new house that Dad's building near where he's living for work right now.
But that place is out in some backwater town. They don't even have a Starbucks.
We talked about this over a long time, and you had accepted that, Mom. You're not going to go back on your promise now, are you? Don't tell me, is this the reason you've been interfering in our love lives for all these years? Have you just been trying to desperately cling to your cosmopolitan lifestyle as long as possible?
No, that's not it at all.
I'll take that as a yes. Moving on.
Clark, can I tell you something?
Nah, not interested. Like I said, moving on. I bet you've already heard this, but Kimberly isn't planning to invite you to her wedding. I think you might want to take some time to do some serious introspection on why that happened, and what you need to do to make it right.
Hello there, Kimberly. Today is your big day, isn't it? I bet you're excited. I prepared a big surprise for you. I hope you'll enjoy it. Well, Kimberly, what did you think of my big surprise? You were surprised, weren't you?
Mom, what in the world was that? I was worried you might go and do something stupid, so I did have my guard up. But wearing all black to a wedding? Black hat, black dress, black coat, black shoes, you even painted your fingernails and toenails black.
Yes, well, getting married to someone like you is practically a funeral, so I came to mourn for your poor husband. And if I'm going to mourn, it only makes sense that I would dress for the occasion. This is what you get for being such a rebellious little brat.
Is it really this fun for you to do everything in your power to sabotage your own daughter's wedding?
Why? It doesn't make any sense. Your brother betrayed me and married a woman without my permission. And once you get married, I'm going to have to move away from a civilized society to live around a bunch of backwards country bumpkins who probably can't even spell the word university. Is that really all? I like living in the city, don't you get it? And now that I've brought your wedding to a halt, you're not getting married anymore. You'll be single forever. I'll see to that personally. Oh, and one other thing. Now that your brother has moved out, I'll need you to move in and take over for him. Without him around, this house is turning into a real mess, so you'll need to get ready to move as soon as possible.
You are really oblivious, aren't you, Mom? We've been legally married for some time now.
What?
My husband and I were officially married just about a month ago after Clark got married. And I'm currently enjoying the newlywed life with my husband right now, so I'm afraid I don't really feel much like moving in with you.
You what?
And besides, the wedding is still on.
No, that can't be.
Well, to be more precise, the reception is still on, and it's going to start soon. Fortunately, there are no other parties who booked the reception hall today. We talked to the manager, explained the situation, and he's willing to give us a few hours extra for no charge.
What a generous guy. I thought for sure it would have been cancelled.
Once again, fortunately, we only planned a small wedding for the family members and close friends. They're all being very understanding, and they had no problems with continuing the ceremony right where we left off.
I won't let that happen. I'm going to barge right through the doors of that reception hall and give you another piece of my mind.
Mom, really? Are you 12? You're such a child.
Excuse me?
We requested additional security staff from the venue, so no, you're not getting into the reception. Don't even bother. You can go home now. You're no longer needed here.
How dare you? You're kicking your own mother out of your own wedding?
Do you actually think you're in any position to be acting so indignant right now? And not to mention, aren't you forgetting the position you're putting Clark in?
What? What position?
I could have sworn I told you about this. Maybe you just weren't paying attention. My husband's father is the president of the company that just so happens to be the single largest client of Clark's company.
He is?
I've explained our family circumstances to him, so he also had an idea you might be up to something. But to have the mother of the president of the company he pays millions of dollars to every year storm into the wedding of his own son, makes a massive scene, disturbs all the guests, and deliberately try to shut down the wedding? You have to understand, he's furious right now. Thanks to you, Clark was basically on his knees begging for his forgiveness for about 20 minutes straight. It was the most fervent apology I've ever seen. And you know who was right there alongside him? Dad. In the end, it was my husband who was finally able to calm him down. And after I explained in greater detail what kind of nutjob you are, his anger actually turned into sympathy for us. Do you have the slightest bit of remorse for almost single-handedly destroying your son's company?
I had no idea.
Plus, you can stop pretending. I know the real reason you don't want to leave the city. And honestly, I have to say, it makes me ashamed to be your daughter.
Kimberly, please, you've got to do something. Talk to your father for me. He's going to divorce me. Can you believe it? If you could just talk to your father and explain how this is really all your fault for disobeying me, I'm sure he'll understand. So you've got to call him right away, okay? Kimberly, answer me this instant. Your disgraceful behavior has ruined my reputation. Now everyone has turned against me. All of our family, my friends, even your brother. And it's all your fault. You need to fix what you did. Kimberly, pick up the phone.
What an embarrassing display. Really, she just refuses to see reason. I bet she didn't even finish the conversation with my dad before she started bombarding me with texts and calls. Somehow, she's under the impression that it was what happened at the wedding that caused Dad to divorce her. But that's not actually the case. You see, my dad hired a private detective to look into Mom's activities. He was perplexed by how desperate my mom was to stay in the city, even going so far as to work overtime to prevent me and Clark from getting married. And what he discovered was that Mom was having an affair, or at least she was trying to. There's a man in one of her exercise classes who she's been flirting with non-stop for the last 5 years or so, but he hasn't been responding to her advances. It got to the point that she practically stalking him, and it seemed he finally had enough of her nonsense because he got a restraining order against her. So Mom ended up being divorced by her husband, disowned by her 2 children, and unceremoniously dumped by the man she had been pining after for 5 years. I guess Mom got her wish after all. Now she gets to spend the rest of her life in the city, although now she'll be doing it alone, in a quiet, run-down apartment on the bad side of town.
Kristen, what is going on here? Why haven't you cleaned the stairs yet? They're filthy! I just walked by them now, and every single step had dust bunnies on them. Listen, Kristen, those stairs are more than just stairs. They're a passage that connects your unit to ours. Without them, how would you come downstairs to see us? If you're allowing these stairs to get so dirty, the only possible conclusion I can draw is that you feel the same way about your relationship with us. It's clear that you need lessons on how to be a respectable homemaker. Come down right now and I'll teach you how to clean properly. Mom? I think you should be able to tell just by looking at my massively expanded stomach that I am quite late in my pregnancy. And having given birth yourself, you should also be very well aware that at this late stage of pregnancy, some activities, cleaning the stairs, for example, are quite difficult for the mother. Ha! You're not going to get out of doing your work with those miserable excuses. I managed to keep the house clean while I was pregnant for both Tony and Mina. That's the difference between you and me. I understand the concept of duty and perseverance, and you would prefer to just laze around all day. If I could do it 30 years ago, you can do it today. No excuses, Kristen. Now hurry up, grab the vacuum cleaner, and meet me at the base of the stairs this instant. Mom. But not half an hour ago you made me go to the supermarket to pick up groceries for you. Did you forget about that by any chance? What? It's a 10-minute walk down to the store empty-handed, and since I'll be carrying bags on my way back, physically it will be quite difficult for me to do much of anything other than carry the groceries home this instant. Oh, I suppose you're right. Now, if there's nothing else you need from me at the moment, could I get back to finishing up the grocery shopping? You're also making me cook dinner for you tonight, so the longer I take to finish up here, the later dinner is going to get. Well, fine, go ahead. Thank you for your understanding. Hello there, Kristen. I'm just letting you know that Mina will be moving back in with us tomorrow. Really? That's odd. I don't remember hearing from her for quite some time now. Why is she moving back here? Did something happen? Oh, it's all quite ridiculous. Her mother-in-law and husband were dreadful to her, so they got divorced. Oh my goodness, a divorce? Yes, I was just as surprised as you are. Her first message to me in 2 years, and it's to tell me she's getting divorced? I'll bet that awful mother-in-law of hers drove her away with her constant nagging and badgering. My poor, sweet little Mina. Ah, yes, I can imagine how awful it would be to have a nagging, badgering mother-in-law. In any case, it is what it is. Your assignment for the afternoon is to clean Mina's room from top to bottom. I don't want a single speck of dust left in there, understand? What? I have to clean her old room? Well, of course you do. She's moving back in, isn't she? She'll be needing her old room again, and I want it to be as clean as possible for her when she arrives. Remember, she's still recovering from the emotional struggle of her divorce. Make sure you clean it properly. I hate to be so direct, but I would really appreciate it if you and Mina could clean the room by yourselves. With the two of you on it, it shouldn't take very long. Excuse me? Haven't you seen the weather report? There's a massive cold front on the way. I'm not going to break my back cleaning in freezing weather. You need to do it before it gets too cold. Mom, my baby's due date is less than a month away right now. That room hasn't been cleaned in 2 years, so it's going to be a pretty major undertaking in order to get it all cleaned up. Not to mention, I'm concerned about what sort of dust, mold, and that sort of thing could be in there. I don't believe you. Are you honestly trying to use that same excuse to get out of doing your work again? So what if your due date is so close? I deigned to allow you to marry into this family, Kristen. Don't you forget that. I won't let you repay my magnanimity with this utterly contemptible scorn. This is your responsibility, Kristen. This is what you signed up for. Don't think that I'll let you get away with this reprehensible behavior just because my son, your husband, is overseas on business at the moment. As long as you live in my house, you will live under my rules. This is ridiculous. Are you really so determined to refuse to admit that pregnancy, especially late-term pregnancy, places genuine physical restrictions on a mother's physical activity? Are you really so determined to refuse a direct order by the mother of your husband? When I married my husband, I was decent enough to know my place and obey his mother. I have no idea, nor do I wish to know, what sort of relationship you had with your mother-in-law. But regardless of how things were for you back then, nothing that happened to you would give you the right to treat the wife of your own son in this way. I am sorry, but as a mother, I have a sacred duty to prioritize the health and well-being of the baby inside of me right now. The baby could be born at any time right now, and in all honesty, it's rather appalling that you would be so insistent on demanding so much physical labor from me while I'm in this condition. How dare you! I will not clean Mina's old room. End of conversation. Goodbye. Kristen, what on earth are you doing? I haven't seen you all afternoon, and when I go up to your room, what do I find? You've put a lock on the door to your room? Who do you think you are? Is this the thanks I get for trying to make you into a respectable wife? What did that boy ever see in you? Well, when he gets back from his business trip, I think I'm going to have a long, serious talk with him about your future in this family. For the time being, come out of your room this instant. Don't think you can hide from me in that room all day. You will obey your mother-in-law. That's an order. If I have no other choice, I'll simply have to break the lock with a hammer or something. Ugh, what did I do to deserve such a troublesome daughter-in-law? Kristen! Kristen, I know you're there. You can't ignore me like this. Mina's going to be home any minute now. I order you to get out of your room this very instant. I mean it. Oh, and one other thing. The weather report said that we'll be getting an extremely heavy snowstorm starting this evening into tomorrow morning. And thanks to you slacking off on your duties to me, I haven't had anything to eat for breakfast or lunch. Do you know what I'm going to have to do now? Go down to the convenience store to buy food for myself and Mina. Do you understand the lows you have forced me to stoop to? What if I get food poisoning? When you come out of there, bring your wallet with you. You're going to be the one paying for this, plus interest. You truly dreadful girl. If this is the kind of daughter-in-law you are, I'm utterly terrified for your poor child's future. Unlike you, however, I'm not one to give up. I will straighten you out, Kristen. I will transform you into a real wife and mother like myself, no matter what it takes. Oh no, look at what you've done. It's already starting to snow. I can't believe this. I put on my normal shoes when I left the house because I thought the snow wouldn't start until this evening. I could fall and hurt myself on the way home. Food for 2 people is so heavy, I'm completely exhausted. How could you do this to me, Kristen, after all I've done for you? And what's worse is Mina just told me she'll be at the house any second. I'll bet she was absolutely devastated when I told her that you were being a lazy bum and hadn't cleaned her room yet. It almost brings me to tears just thinking about it. But even through her devastation, she still managed to muster up the courage to say, "It's all right, Mom, I can do it myself." I may have had no luck with a daughter-in-law, but at least my real daughter appreciates me. Well, just you wait, Kristen. You've gone too far with your disrespect this time. You're going to be punished for this, and I know exactly how to punish you. Kristen, what is the meaning of this? I just got home a moment ago. And now I see that you are still holed up in your room? Unbelievable. Mina's already in the house. Don't pretend you didn't notice. You have to have heard her come in. Have you no common decency? Come out here and say hello to her. How long are you going to continue ignoring my messages, Kristen? You haven't even read any of them yet. Don't bother trying to tell me that you don't have your phone. I won't believe such silly lies. Oh, you will regret this disrespect, Kristen. I'll make sure of that. Well then, hopefully this will teach you a lesson about respect. Just be grateful that I allowed you to stay in the shed in order to keep you out of the snow. While you're out there tonight, maybe think twice about ever disrespecting me again. My goodness, that was quite the snowstorm last night, wasn't it? I just came out to the shed to check on you. But, dear me, looks like the shed collapsed under the weight of the snow. I'm sorry, is that inconvenient pregnant belly of yours keeping you from getting up? My goodness, it was satisfying watching you squirm out there. What? Mom, what are you talking about? I just now saw that you had lit up my phone with notifications, and I had a really bad feeling about what was going on, but I'm not at the house right now. I went to my folks' house across town yesterday. Ha! You're not fooling anyone. I just saw you squirming and crying, half buried under the snow in the shed. Well, it's clear you haven't learned your lesson yet. I was thinking about coming to help you, but if you're still intent on lying to me, you can stay out there for a few more hours. Ask yourself, if I was outside, half buried in snow right now, how would I be talking to you on my phone like this? What? That shed was pretty old, so it doesn't surprise me in the least that the snow last night would have crushed it, but again, if there is someone out there squirming around in the snow like you say, it's not me. What? I think you might want to take one more look out there to see who it really is. Why, Kristen! Why didn't you come back to the house yesterday? Ah, so it would seem that the person buried in the snow was actually Mina, huh? The neighbors called me a bit ago. They said that they were concerned when an ambulance showed up at the house, sirens blaring. Well, what was I supposed to think? It was your room, the door was locked, and you weren't answering my messages. How was I supposed to know that Mina was the one asleep in there? Any rational person would have assumed it was you. Her room still hadn't been cleaned, right? Did you think she was just going to lay right down on top of 2 years' worth of dirt and dust? But how did she get into your room? The door was locked. Oh, I have a pretty good guess. Back before she got married and moved out, Mina had a nasty habit of going into my room and taking my things without permission, so eventually I got tired of it and put a lock on the door. Then, after a while of having the door locked, one day my things started vanishing mysteriously once again, so I figured she must have made a copy at some point. I caught her using it once and took it away from her, but I guess she must have had a spare, too. That's beside the point. This is all because you went to your parents' house yesterday. I know, isn't that an incredible coincidence? How can you laugh at a time like this? While I do feel bad for poor Mina, you have to admit it's pretty ironic. But you should also be grateful it wasn't me. If it were me out there rather than Mina, there's no way that both me and the baby would have come out of this okay. And you would have had some pretty serious consequences on your hands. But why didn't you tell me you weren't coming home yesterday? I spoke to you on my way out the door, don't you remember? What? 2 nights ago, I messaged Tony and told him all about the terrible way you've been treating me while he's been overseas, and asked him what he thought I should do. He told me that I should get out of the house for now and go stay with my parents. I called them up right after that, and they came to pick me up yesterday morning. They were planning on at least stopping inside to make an effort to be polite and say hello. But I thought that if you found out what I was doing, you would go berserk and do anything and everything you could to stop me from leaving. So I told them to wait in the car and that I would tell you they said hello. Wait, was this while I was watching TV? It was indeed. So let's recap, shall we? Mina has gained so much weight in the course of her 2 years of being a total freeloader at her now ex-husband's house that you mistook her for a very pregnant me. And without even bothering to check for sure who it was, you threw her into the shed. Did I miss anything? Oh, that's right. The neighbors told me that they had talked to the paramedics who told them that the reason Mina couldn't get herself out of the snow was because she dislocated her hip when you threw her into the shed. How can this be happening? And come to find out that the real reason for Mina's divorce was actually because she was constantly verbally abusive towards her mother-in-law while her husband was away at work. That apple sure didn't fall very far from the tree. That can't be true! You're lying! No, it's true. Call her ex yourself. In any case, I suppose I'll let you get back to looking after Mina while she's recovering. That's right. You need to hurry up and get back here so you can take care of Mina while she's recovering. I'll pass. My baby will be born any moment now, so I plan on doing some well-deserved rest and relaxation until the big day comes. You can't do that! I have already talked to both Tony and my parents about this, and we're all in agreement that this is the best course of action for everyone involved. But what about me? Correction, the best course of action for everyone involved, except you. Kristen, I need you over here now. I can't look after Mina. I'll miss my shows. I started getting contractions about 5 days after that incident, and it just so happened that my husband Tony got back in town from his business trip just in time for him to be in the delivery room with me for the birth. We are now the happy and proud parents of a healthy baby boy. Meanwhile, in stark contrast to our happiness over the birth of our child, my mother-in-law is neck-deep in serious trouble. Mandatory reporting laws meant the hospital contacted the police, and after a very quick investigation, she was hauled off in the back of a police car. So, while Mina was discharged from the hospital a few days later with a clean bill of health, my mother-in-law is now looking at building a criminal record. Tony and I talked it over, and we decided that considering how things have been going at his mom's house, we would make our temporary stay at my parents' house a permanent one. With her husband giving her the boot, her brother moving out of the house, her mother moving into a jail cell, and her father having already passed away, Mina realized that there was now no one she could mooch off of. One day I got a not-so-subtle text from her asking if she could stay with us at my folks' place for a few days. My quick-thinking husband told her that she could stay, as long as she would agree to become a live-in maid for us and my parents. She left his message unread, and we haven't heard from her since.